Awesome. All right, I'm here with Nico Ferreyra. That was probably still bad. Founder and CEO of Default. And I wanted to have him on because he's been quite prolific on LinkedIn and definitely practicing the founder-led marketing approach that I preach and also practice. And so, yeah, Nico, thank you for joining. And maybe if you want to give a little bit of context on you and then Default, why you started the company and what you guys do.
Yeah. Thanks, Finn, for having me on. As Finn mentioned, I'm Nico. I'm one of the two co-founders and the CEO of Default.com. We're building the inbound growth platform for B2B companies.
For people's context, how many full-time people are you right now at Default?
We just hired 3 new people. So I think we're 19, 18, 19.
So is it safe to assume that you guys are roughly 2 million ARR? You don't have to give me the right number, but are we like directionally correct?
Well, won't comment on revenue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Above 1 million? Is that fair to say?
We're getting up there.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. We've
Cool.
been in market for less than a year. So
For 5-figure ACV, I think you're selling into mid-market.
yeah, we've recently sort of changed from going with a very sort of like more startup, sort of like seed, Series A, like Series B, to now doing a lot more like Series B to Series D stage customers. So we recently sort of like doubled our pricing like a few weeks ago. We have also kind of like changed our positioning, and we're about to change our positioning again
Yep.
to appeal to kind of a more senior persona as well. I think like one of the I think bigger issues that we've run into, and I think this is just like the natural place like where you start as a startup, is like, you know, you kind of have to be different and better, and not just better, right? Which I think is like the issue that a lot of companies like always fall into with their initial positioning, right? We always get compared to like traditional like lead routing and like lead scheduling tools because that's what customers know and that's what customers buy, right? And the two issues we've seen with that are, number one, the sort of buying decision. As the category matures, the buying decision for that sort of gets delegated to a more technical and like less senior buyer persona.
Mm-hmm.
And what that does, it erodes your pricing power, right? Because a RevOps manager at like a Series Z stage company is not going to feel comfortable going to their like VP of RevOps or, you know, marketing leader or whatever and saying, hey, yeah, I know you said, you know, we have the speed of lead issue, but I just got quoted, you know, $60K or something like that for a lead.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of other vendors like I think we should go look at who are going to charge us like 18, right? And the reality is like that is the door through which like we sell today because that's a line item on the budget, right? But we've also taken a pretty like we've been I'd say a little more long-term focus. Like we have the benefit of like being incredibly well capitalized like very early because we wanted to take a really big swing on products. So like the product surface area is incredibly broad. And it's a lot less kind of like point solution oriented, and it feels a lot more like a platform.
Right.
We have, you know, our smallest customers like use us as a very lightweight like inbound TRM, right? For example. And I think that's something that is not true about many other vendors that exist in the same category through which like we primarily sell or where most of our revenue comes from.
And so ICP is a RevOps person for you guys right now?
That's typically like the technical buyer. But usually we sell in through marketing, demand generation, occasionally growth, but we do see a lot of RevOps as well.
And is it bottom up or top down? So is it top down?
Top down, super. We've DQ'd most of our inbound over the course of last year. Sort of trying to understand like the demand, where it's coming from, et cetera, but also like not letting in customers who are going to be a bad fit for us today, right? Because right now, like the best customer for us today is someone who has the problem that we solve primarily, but is also an incredible candidate for expansion on a 12 to 18 month time horizon, right? So our NRR is incredible because we've sort of taken a more very focused approach to selling only to our perceived ICP and not outside of it.
And so it's generally a marketing leader, and is the biggest kind of problem in their head speed to lead that you yourself, or what's the biggest
Yeah.
thing that you're
So
trying to, yeah.
the primary thing usually is that marketing starts to spend more money on paid channels, right?
Mhm.
Um, a lot of leads start coming to the website, they start filling out forms, etc. Right? And there's no real like orchestration layer or any sort of telemetry between that point of ingestion and the tools and the team downstream, right? So if you think about like the growing complexity that emerges in go-to-market teams as they grow and scale, right? You start to think about like segments, you start to think about territories, unknown accounts versus owned accounts, even accounts that are like ICP versus non-ICP, and even like looking at different job titles, right? So for us, we essentially provide Canvas and a suite of tools that people can use to directly connect, their sort of marketing spend to pipeline generation. So, and while compressing the sort of time it takes to go from form fill to meeting booked on the calendar and subsequent next steps and whatnot.
Yep. Now, today, no, yesterday, I guess you actually posted on LinkedIn. You said if you're a founder and you want to grow your startup in 2025, the
Yeah.
best thing you can do is to find a way to build an audience on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Now, this is the topic of the podcast, right? So let's
Yeah.
dive right in. Why did you say that? Why do you believe that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a bunch of reasons behind this. Um, I'm a big supporter and proponent of founder-led marketing. Um, for a few reasons. I think number one, the obvious one is that B2B is so incredibly crowded. There's just so many software companies. And the biggest ones tend to have some sort of, they have some sort of founder aura,
Mm,
where founders are sort of become this sort of, mythical, prop that's used in like the story of a company, right? Notion is a great example of this, right? There's the classic story of like, Ivan and I think Akshay, like going to Japan for a year and like working out of a studio in like Kyoto, like while they refined, uh, the sort of first version of the product before coming back to the US and like launching it, right? And like that is founder led marketing, right? That is the traditional sort of like hero's journey type story. And I think that is something that appeals so well to customers, to investors, to, passive market actors as well. Right. It helps you hire better. It helps you sell better. It helps you raise more money from better people. It just increases the odds of getting lucky. Right. At the same time, like I think, startups have sort of become in the last maybe 8 to 10 years, I think a lot, especially the last like 4 years or 6 years, like I think since the pandemic started, like a lot more of a spectator sport, right?
mm,
People love to cheer for the people they like, the gladiators they love, and they love to just punch down on the companies they hate or that they perceived um, were overfunded, and like not meritocratic, right? We saw this with like Quibi, right? Or like Quibi raised like a ton of money, and then as soon as Quibi went under, like everybody just dogpiled them, right?
mm,
And like you sort of see the same thing with companies. I think like we're seeing it a lot with like AI SDR companies right now, where like there are people who are like fans of the ones that have like founder led marketing approaches. And then you have others who are like not fans of the ones that like are perceived to be like overfunded.
mm.
Uh, so you can sort of like pick a category in SaaS and like sort of see the discrepancy there, but it's really interesting to observe.
So what's your own journey? When did you let's say what was when did you start taking this seriously and start posting actively?
Yeah, probably. I think it was probably like a little over a year ago, year and a half ish, maybe.
And what was the instigator? Like what happened a year and a half ago that you said, okay, let me do this?
I think I just came to the realization, we'd been building the first version of the product for quite a while. And we have like started to onboard like our earliest customers. And I think I just came to the realization, like, what we're doing is so hard that I need to increase the chances that we're going to get lucky, right? That the right customer is going to hear about us, or that the right person who worked at, Marketo 10 years ago is going to hear about us and is going to, reach out and say, hey, love what you guys are building. Um, Here are some interesting secrets about marketing automation, right? Or how we scaled Marketo early on, right? Just those conversations like help you learn and just get you more information faster, more feedback, more signal, and like help you disprove yourself, right? Prove yourself wrong like much faster, or see like what works, right? And I think for a lot of founders, like they view the founder-led marketing thing as like, we should do founder-led marketing. And I fell into this trap myself, to be clear. But they like get it and they sort of like start to think like, okay, like we should start to do founder-led marketing when we're ready to sell. And I think that's such a bad trap to fall into,
Mm.
because like you should be selling from day one of your startup, right? You may not like the selling part may not include like implementing your product, right? Or collecting revenue, right? But you should like be sort of one of our teammates like had a really good way to put this yesterday. Sort of like testing micro positioning at scale, right? You need to sort of see what works, what resonates with people, et cetera. And I think like the two distinct phases of sales, of early stage sales, like selling to learn and then selling to earn, right? And I think a lot of founders like they don't start the go to market engine early enough because they think they're not ready. They're only focused on selling to earn, and that's a trap that I've seen a lot of founders, like including myself, like really early on fall into. So
So a year and a half ago when you started, how did you get started? Like how much time did you dedicate? Did you take some course? Did you hire someone? What was your way of getting started?
yeah, I think about a year and a half ago, we'd hired our first sort of made our first go to market hire, sort of growth generalist, who helped sort of kickstart a lot of positioning, messaging, pricing, just set a very good like experimentation framework internally for us to use. And I think following that, I just kind of realized like, okay, like we just need to start seeing like if this resonates with people or not. And like if we're thinking about our positioning wrong, but thinking about our messaging wrong, our personas or ICPs, et cetera. Um, and I just started thinking a bit about what we um, what we were actually trying to solve for with customers, right? And just thinking about like through the lens of our customers, like what are they thinking about? Not super specific early on, just about like inbound, right? Like the value of inbound, like I'm trying to understand like what resonates with people, what didn't, and it was, I mean, it was incredible. Like I started to get natural inbound to my like LinkedIn DMs with people saying, "Hey, we have this problem. Like, can you all help this?" Right?
Mm.
Or um, people signing up and like booking a demo through default on our website, which was like super cool at the time. Really early on. It's still cool, obviously, but we started to get signal, like we started to understand like what worked, what resonated, like what the weaknesses that we had were, and like like what we were really good at and what we had the potential to be like the best at.
Mhm.
And like where we kind of sucked, or like what the weaknesses of the business model or our messaging or our positioning actually were. Right. So,
Did you have a
yeah,
goal when you get started?
no, I think it's, I do not believe like when you're starting something like, when you're starting something like 0 to 1 activity, I think like having some goal, um, takes away from the process of building the muscle. And I think kicks like getting a startup off the ground does a lot more around like, I think inputting a bunch of the right behavior, the right activity, and like the right information into the right people, and just doing the same thing over and over again until it starts to like pick up steam, or like the boulder starts rolling down the sort of proverbial hill, right? So um, yeah, I didn't really have a goal in mind. I was just like,
Did
let's
you have a
start.
timeline in mind? Like, is it like I'm gonna just start and see what happens, but I'm gonna give it 3 months max, or
No, I knew that it was something that I would have to do, like, and I would have to always do it, right? And it was just a matter of like, when do I feel ready to sort of start doing this founder-led marketing thing, which is really just posting on LinkedIn and Twitter about what we're building, and um, trying to generate activity and conversations with people we wanted to talk to.
so
Right.
you think about it as something that you'll always be doing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think absolutely. I think it's one of the most important levers for teams to pull is like and um, founder messaging, um, getting the ideas of the founder into the market, even if they're like um, abrasive ideas or they're like unpopular ideas, just getting the feedback and like getting the signal. I think the founder persona is like such a good spearhead to just use for that, right?
Yeah.
Um,
How much time would you say you spend on it on a weekly, monthly basis with all in all posting, writing it, engaging, commenting? Like, what's your best estimate here?
Yeah, my engagement isn't great. Like my liking and commenting on I think other people's posts is like not great, and that's something like I need to improve. But I probably spend like 4 to 6 hours a month. I think on it. I usually will like I have an hour block every Sunday to write a few posts, and then like during the week I'll like go in and like tweak a few posts and stuff like that. So, um, an hour 4 times a week, about 4 hours I think minimum a month. Um, which is good because I mean, I do my weekly recap with and prep call with my co-founder every Sunday. So it's just a great way to sort of come out of that meeting with everything fresh top of mind, and then I just get right to it. So
So
it's great.
once a week, you block an hour to write your
Mhm.
post for the week?
Yeah, write my post or like write a sort of draft, and I just keep it in Notion or
Yeah.
Apple Notes, depending on sort of where I'm at that day, and I'll just write out a bunch of rough drafts. I do the same thing for Twitter as well.
Do you have some framework for that? Is it just what comes to mind? Do you have content pillars or something to help you with that?
Um, I don't it's not really a well-defined framework. I think I try and think about it in terms of like what's a compelling story or like what's a I think the best things that work are like when you share a secret, that are like secrets I think do wonders. Um, because everyone, I think, especially in our category, just more broadly, sales and marketing software, there's this sort of like mimesis that trickles through everyone, where like everyone wants to know like how Gong scaled to 250 million of revenue,
Yeah.
how Notion scaled to 200 plus million of revenue, how Apollo figured out PLG after being sales led for a long time, right? And like those secrets and like that super actionable. Um, those super actionable and like tactical stories, I think, do super well. Um, I try and share a lot of insights of what's happening for our customers through our product. Some of those posts that I've done have done incredibly well. Like customers going like from 0 to 5 million of ARR on default without a CRM, right?
Yeah.
In 6 months. Stuff like that that has happened that is just so bizarre, and talking about like how they did that without spending a dollar on RevOps and without spending on a RevOps agency or a dollar on their CRM for the first 6 months and like first 5 million of revenue, right? Stuff like that does super well.
Interesting. And so you get those insights from customer conversations?
Yeah, customer conversations and we have like a big metrics dashboard of leads getting processed and meetings getting booked and stuff like that. So it's very easy to sort of glean insights, especially because we're talking to our customers all the time about like what they're spending money on marketing wise, what campaigns drive the most impressions and conversions and whatnot. So it's a really interesting sort of black box for us to look into every once in a while.
When you sit down once a week for an hour, how many posts come out of that usually?
2 to 4.
Yep. And do you already go into it knowing exactly the 2 to 4 you wanna write because you've been keeping tab on those things over the week, or is it literally a blank piece of paper and you kind of reflect back on what sticks out?
It's a blank piece of paper, and I think about like what are the problems that our customers are telling us about that they have, or prospects telling us that they have over the course of the last like week, usually because I do like my weekly burn down with my co-founder, then weekly prep call, and that just like all that stuff just being so fresh and like top mind, like I think makes for writing a good story very easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've been doing it now for a year and a half.
Mhm.
From your perspective, what are the biggest benefits that you've received so far from doing it? And this can be quantifiable thing, non-quantifiable things. What to you is like the thing that you're like, I want to keep going.
Yeah. what we hear a lot in sales calls that, hey, some RevOps manager will like come in and like book a demo with us and say, hey, like our CEO saw your CEO's post and sent it to me via Slack DM, and we have this problem. And I thought of, you know, that I could instantly sort of like see your CEO talking about this. And, I thought I'd reach out and see what's happening. We're up for renewal in 3 months and we're not happy. Right. So let's chat. I want to understand like what you all do and if you're better. And then, going from there.
So it's really kind of anecdotally customers and prospects mentioning the content on sales calls,
Sales
etc.
calls and whatnot. Yeah. I think,
And are you on those sales calls, or do you use Gong, or how do you know that this is happening?
yeah, we use a call recorder. And folks our AEs will tell me as well when you will sometimes tell me um, when someone saw a post or something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like I think you just got to do. It just increases your odds of getting lucky. And I think that's like one of the primary responsibilities of the founder is like increase the surface area for luck, right? Go talk to more prospects, try and get intros from investors to good companies in their portfolio. DM that hire, that potential hire who's been at a company that you would love to hire from because they have, a sales motion that's maybe very similar to yours, or they've solved similar engineering problems to the ones that you're going to have to solve the next year, stuff like that. So
Do you believe this idea of increasing the chance of getting lucky only really applies to early stage founders who are in that 0 to 1 phase, or if you're running a 10 million ARR company and you're
yeah, I mean, I know CEOs that are at 100 million plus of ARR, and they still do prospecting on LinkedIn. Uh, and I think it's one of those things. It's like, you know, another deal, another conversation. Startups are they're all about upside maximization, right? Like, to maximize upsides, you just always have to have the consistency and the quality of the inputs growing up, or going up, right? And I think this just falls into the same bucket that I
yeah.
led Mark.
Now 4 to 6 hours a month. I'm not sure if you're a little too conservative with that, but that's a very lean
Yeah,
thing, right? I mean, I think Adam Robinson talks about it that he spends 20 hours a week.
yeah,
Well,
different league. Now, I will say, so we're about to move offices in like 5 days, and we are one of our new rooms in the new office space. We're converting into a content studio. So what we like the signal that we have and like what we're quadrupling down on next year is content. So video content, especially like right now on LinkedIn, is it's like it should it feels illegal. How well it performs. Um, a lot of um, a lot of what we want to do next year revolves around content and like high quality content production and whatnot. I think there's so much that we can glean from like TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts in terms of what works really well, what people engage with, right? And I think engagement is the thing that you really want. Obviously, like engagement within your ICP, right? So sort of design the content accordingly. But I mean, we're going super deep on content next year, and we're going full blown, content studio, high quality production, all that stuff. So it's something we really believe in.
so the next step for you is adding, let's say, short form video, or what? When you think about, okay, you're posting 2 to 4 times a week on LinkedIn, you're spending a couple hours a month on it. What's like to you, and when you think about this as a roadmap, what are the next couple of steps for you?
Yeah. So I think the in terms of content, right? We have like a bunch of different ways that we are going to use it, and like a bunch of like activities that sort of revolve around it, right? Like one is like the social channel, right? SEO, um, you know, um, blog, etc. Right. On the social side, there's like the founder led LinkedIn, there's founder led Twitter, there's member led LinkedIn, there's company led LinkedIn. On the SEO front, competitor content, jobs to be done content, switch moment content. Thinking about like programmatic SEO, etc. Like what we're thinking about right now is like not necessarily, yeah, we have a content roadmap, in terms of sort of narratives that we're expanding into, as our positioning changes and as how we think about our product and how our customers think about our product starts to evolve and change. But also like thinking a lot more like, okay, like how do we build an engine for generating incredibly high quality content that drives pipeline? That
Now,
is our
I'm curious because you mentioned, company-led content on LinkedIn, SEO.
yeah.
Does that to you does that tie into the founder-led marketing stuff? Like when I when w like what's to you the roadmap for the founder-led marketing stuff specifically? Like, are you like, look, I'm writing my 2 to 4 posts a week on LinkedIn. I'm spending a couple hours a month. I'm happy to keep it at this level. And then the way that we grow from here is to just add SEO and company content and other influencers talking about it, but I stay here? Or do you have a roadmap on like doing more content, doing other channels for yourself, spending more time on it, or actually less next year? What's your roadmap on the FLM stuff?
Yeah, well, I think the two things are very like intertwined, right? Like the blog posts that we've put out, for example, most of them sort of get inspired by conversations we have internally. Either ideas for content or talking about like our customers, like what we've seen happen within our customers' accounts and like their inbound motions and whatnot. So the two things are like very interwoven. I think like we're definitely going to get a lot more. We're going to get a lot more strategic about like how we use like my LinkedIn, how we use like our head of growth LinkedIn, our founding AE's LinkedIn,
Yep.
founding customer success leads LinkedIn to drive sort of like different personas views or angles of like this really big sort of problem that spans like multiple point solution systems, um, which is the problem that we're kind of going after. Um, but yeah, we do have a roadmap for content. We know sort of like what narratives we want to talk about at any kind of given point as the company evolves and as we expect our own product and go to market to evolve as well. Um, I can't really tell you with 100% certainty what we're going to be talking about 9 months from now, but
Yeah.
directionally, we know where we're going.
Do you look at your analytics, content analytics, LinkedIn analytics in any way, systematic way? How do you look at those things?
Yeah, I mean, not really a systematic way. I think we want to make the number go up and to the right, right? So,
And what's that
we
number for you?
yeah, so well, everything for us is around qualified meetings held.
Okay.
So, there's definitely a lot between, a LinkedIn view on a post or a LinkedIn impression and a qualified meeting held. But doing a lot of the right activity, I think, like increases the odds that we get more qualified meetings held. Uh,
And so, okay, it's about growing that number. Do you look at like, I don't know, this month you got 50,000 impressions total. Last month you got 70,000 impressions total. What's going on? What did I do? What should I change? Do you look at this type of stuff on any granular basis?
yeah, I'll look at impressions and whatnot. I don't think impressions are necessarily correlated to. There's probably not a super strong correlation between just general impressions and qualified meetings held. I've had a couple of posts have gone like pretty viral. Where like I posted like a picture of like the mattress I slept on when I like dropped out of college and like moved into a hacker house in San Francisco and like that
Mm.
blew up. And then like some Salesforce post that I made that got thousands of likes. Stuff like that. Like, we didn't really see any demos come in from that. But I think brand is a hard thing to quantify this early. Um, but it's one of those things like you need to ruthlessly try and build and polish and refine.
What if those couple of viral posts that you had did not necessarily have an impact on actual demos booked? Have you noticed what type of content does really have an impact on the demos booked?
Definitely. Anytime we showcase the product, I will usually get like one or two DMs from people who are using another solution or similar. I actually had I posted a product demo video or something like that, maybe like a week or two ago, and I had an enterprise company that's like an incredible logo. come in and book a demo. And I reached out to the guy and was like, hey, saw you came in, just want to make sure you're real. And we have a meeting booked for 2 days from now, right? So,
How
product,
did you know that that came from that demo video?
he told me,
Okay.
he
So you DM'd that person, asked specifically, and that person told you.
Yeah, yeah. We also had seen that logo looking at uh, a URL that was hyperlinked to that post. So
Yep.
I sort of put two and two together.
What do you think are maybe some of the other activities that go beyond just, you writing a post and hitting publish on LinkedIn that that make this type of motion worthwhile to you? For example, right, like if a founder had hired a ghostwriter that writes content for them and that goes out, and then this demo comes in and that founder had never reached out to that person and DM'd them, they might have never found out that this product video that they posted did anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm,
what do you do besides just hitting publish, in your opinion, that's contributing?
yeah, I think the hardest part of the process, I think, is getting new. You need new content, right? You need new insights, and like that is talking to customers. That is reading. I've like gone on Reddit and like look at this RevOps subreddit to see what people are complaining about. That is like directly sort of related to what we spend most of our time like thinking about and working on. Um, I've gone on, the sales subreddit. It's just like information gathering, parsing it, and then trying to weave it into a good story, I think is the hardest part of it.
Got it. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think all of those things, on the one hand, you could consider being part of that time that you spend creating content, obviously going to subreddit and reading things on
Mhm.
the RevOps subreddit that then creates an idea that you can then write about that will then do well on LinkedIn. But on the other hand, those are the types of things that a good founder needs to do anyway, right? Kind of understand what's going on in their market and what customers care about and
Yeah.
what topics are top of mind. Yeah.
That's your kind of core job as a founder is like figure out what people care about and then, figure out, hire the people and hire the people you need to, work on that and then, make it happen and be the
Yep.
best at it. So.
Where would you rank, let's say, founder-led marketing right now on your priority list? If, I don't know, building product, hiring the team, like where does it sit?
Well, I mean, I will say, admittedly, I just got out of like a big hiring cycle. It was down there a little bit, and as a result, my LinkedIn impressions went down a little bit. But it's up there right now. I mean, the big thing, where I'm spending most of my time right now is definitely product. Definitely um, positioning the sort of marketing side on go to market. Sales process, we built really good repeatability, and now it's like we've hit the point where like hygiene matters a lot, and we're improving a lot of stuff there. But when I'm really spending most of my time about is like trying to look at the product and the problem and our customers from different angles, and like trying to see what can we lead that's like unique, defensible, and like feels like default.
Yep. Now, if a SaaS founder came to you, early stage, growth stage SaaS founder, and they're still on the fence, they haven't started, they see you, they see Adam Robinson, they see Chris Walker, I don't know, all kinds of people posting on LinkedIn, but they're on the fence, they're not sure, they don't know if they have the time or want to do it. How would you help them think through the question of whether this makes sense for them, and what would you tell them?
Um, I think a big you definitely want to be where your customers are, right? If you're selling to, SMB, like washer, laundromat operators, you probably don't want to be on LinkedIn, right? Or LinkedIn like may not move the needle very much. It may move the needle on like being able to raise money or like hire people, but maybe not on like customer acquisition. Um, and I think you basically you want to be like the hero in the channel where your customers are, right? For the problem that you solve in any given um, at any given time. So for us, the hero that we need to be right now is for, uh, RevOps, marketing, occasionally growth, et cetera, sort of like all talking about like different angles of the same problem, right? There's so many different ways you can cut like the lead routing line item, right?
Mm.
And like who it matters for, right? It's like bought by RevOps, or maybe marketing ops or marketing. It's maintained by RevOps or marketing ops. It's used by sales. Scheduling software is typically bought by marketing or sales and used by one or the other, right? There's just so many different ways like you can talk about that. You can talk about the metrics. You can talk about the business systems impact, all kinds of stuff.
Okay. So so your thinking is as long as the your buyer is on LinkedIn, being active on there and being the hero of your category, product, point
Mhm.
of view should be a founder's job.
I think it should be a founder's job. Yeah. And I think for I think most of the founders I talk to who have trouble, I think, getting started with this, they tend to be, I think, like more technical founders because it feels like sales, and like sales, I think, feels natural because you want the merit of what you build to be so good that it attracts people, right? And it goes back to like the upside maximization, kind of creating your own luck conversation, right? Like, um, if you're talking about like why you're building the thing, talk about like why you're building it. If you're, if you don't want to frame it in terms of like why you're selling it, right? If you want it to be less about like why you're selling it, you want to feel like you're not selling it, but you're instead talking about what you're building. Just talk about why you're building it, right? If you have a good reason for building something, it'll come naturally,
Yep.
I think.
And let's say you are talking to a SaaS founder and they come to you and they're like, I've been doing this for a month or two, posting every week, but it's just not, I don't feel like it's working. I don't think I'm getting the results. The engagement is not where I think it should be or where I want it to be. What would you tell them?
Um, I think there's two things. The first one I think would be it takes time. Great things take time, always. The second one is
How much time? Are we talking 3 months or 3 years?
I think for us, it took probably 3 months, maybe 2 to 3 months before we knew like, yeah, I should be doing this.
Mm.
I mean, I knew I should be doing it, but like I should be doing this more and like better. Um,
And
so
what did you see at 3 months that was like, yeah, I should be doing this?
we started to have like some gravity. People started to come to us. And I think part of it is like the product category that we are playing in initially, just has such low NPS and doesn't really have a ton of solutions, for like the problem that we aim to solve. Like there's a bunch of things that you can stitch together, but there's nothing really that solves the problem end to end. And as a result, you have a lot of different personas and a lot of different people that experience a problem. So we had like the benefit of that kind of like market dynamic on our side. So if we were at 2 or 3 months, like we started to see inbound come in. I started to get LinkedIn DMs from people asking if, they could get access, try it out. They're up for renewal with so-and-so in 3 or 4 months, just want to explore. Right.
Yeah.
And that was like really positive signal that what I was talking about was actually starting to work. So
So at 3 months, you're looking at, are we getting some signal? Because I mean, let's say even if you're spending 2 hours a week on it, which I would say you're on the low end of what I've seen some people spend on this, being way less successful than
yeah,
you are, that's still very valuable time, you being the
for
founder,
sure.
co-founder, and CEO. Like, so at 3 months, is it's like, okay, at this point, we're ROI positive, let's say, on this time that I'm spending, or I'm just seeing signals that if I just keep spending some more time here, then it will become a really powerful thing.
Yeah, yeah. I probably wasn't thinking about it from like an ROI of my time perspective because the ROI of my time, like early on, was just so heavily like product and talk to customers and like make it easier to talk to customers. Um, so I think at 3 months, if like you haven't had a single conversation where you learn something from a prospect, because it's not like you're gonna start doing it and then sales is gonna blow up, right? That's not really how any of this works, unless you strike gold with the product you're building and the sort of promise market fit, right? Which is a lot of what has happened with a lot of like AI categories, right? But in most cases, it's not really how it works. So I think at like the 3-month mark, if you haven't learned anything from a customer that saw one of your posts, or not a customer, but a prospect or some relevant market actor, right? Someone in the market who may not be a prospect, they may be adjacent to the problem you're solving, but they help you learn something, and you take that learning and you do something about it. I think at 3 months, you probably just want to ask yourself why that's happening. You're either telling the wrong message, the message isn't the right message, or it shouldn't be broadcasted in the first place, or maybe it's as simple as like you don't have the right LinkedIn connections, right?
Mm.
That's one thing. I will say that is one thing I did before starting the founder-led marketing thing. Is I went out, I like mapped my TAM in Sales Navigator, so to speak, and then I started connecting with a lot of people that I thought would resonate with our messaging.
Yep. And any most useful resources for you on this journey in the last 1.5 years? Any books, videos, podcasts? I don't know that help you.
I can't think of any content that helped me off the top of my head. I think we were pretty prescriptive with like the personas we wanted to go after initially. What I literally did was I threw it into LinkedIn Sales Navigator as a search. I took that search, I threw it into Phantom Buster, and then I had this auto connecting
Yep.
Phantom Buster automation that was reaching out and was sending a message, an auto message, like every I think 3 days after a connection request was accepted.
And in general, on the founder-led marketing part, not just specifically the connecting part, any resources there that you can point people to?
Um, I think observing what works for founders right now, like founders who do it really well. Um,
Who are you watching?
um, Adam Robinson is obviously
Yep.
putting on a masterclass around this. Um, Austin Hughes at Unify has done an incredible job. I made a post about this yesterday. So Troy from
Troy Manson,
yeah,
El Aga, Ben Sharf.
Ben Sharf has done an incredible job. Cyrus Shirazi as well. All doing a great job of kind of starting to build like the founder-led marketing engine. I think like looking at there's a lot that goes behind like Adam Robinson's thing. There's a ton of production, there's a ton of strategy, etc. But I think like looking at a founder's profile like a year ago versus
Mm.
where they're at today, if they're doing a good job, like sort of tells you like the story arc or like what the process looked like. And like it also is like it's helpful for understanding it. Like no one just suddenly starts doing it and starts getting like hundreds of likes, right? It's a
Mhm.
process. So
Same works for YouTube channel. Go back to any big YouTuber and just start at their oldest video,
yeah.
and you'll see for how long they struggled to even get 100 views on a YouTube video, and then it suddenly clicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
I was just actually reading for the first time Russell Brunson,
Yeah.
one of the OGs in this space. Was always kind of hesitant to read him. I don't know, but definitely has really good things to say. And basically, his point of view was also just for him. It was podcast, record a podcast episode every day for a year,
Yeah.
and if you actually do that, you'll never have to worry about money
Yeah.
again. But actually doing it every day for a whole year, that's where people fail.
Yeah. Great things take time.
Yeah.
So
Cool, man. What are you excited about in the next year? Q1 can be both business or anything else.
I'm incredibly excited for next year. It feels like we just went through our first renewals quarter ever, having launched like a year ago. And it is I'm incredibly bullish is where all is where
So it's going well, is what you're saying.
it's going very well. Yeah. I think we haven't been in growth mode for the first year. I don't really buy the whole like I don't think it really matters how long it takes you to get to like 1 million in ARR. I think what matters a lot more is the sort of like the quality of revenue under the curve, sort of like integral of the revenue, right?
Mhm.
If the quality is bad and you have high churn rate, and it all also kind of depends on like the type of company and like the DNA of like the company and the category and the product that you're building. For us, like we made a bet on being multi-product super early, right? So the big thing that mattered for us in our first renewal season was like, okay, like how well is the multi-product thing playing out, right? Like how much are people expanding? And people are expanding a lot. Like it's incredible NRR. So yeah, I think it matters a lot more like the quality of the revenue under the curve. And like you never want to build yourself into a corner or like pigeonhole yourself, right? Where like you build something that's like sticky but doesn't have what it takes to grow really fast efficiently. And I think like by virtue of going broad, we've made it very easy for us to adopt like a new go-to-market motion that we're going to be going full blast on next year.
Can you tease it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I mentioned earlier in this call that we have DQ'd most of the inbound that we've gotten over the course last year, right? And like we got a ton of inbound from really small companies, like
Hmm.
startups,
Hmm.
who they buy us, they want to buy us because they just need a form, right? And one of the big components of default is like the form builder, right? And their alternative is Typeform or like maybe a Calendly routing form or something else like that. And what ends up happening is they end up doing really well, and they grow really fast, and they add a bunch of sales reps, and their seat count grows. And I look at that, I'm like, okay, that's a potentially like
Reform builder.
initially, yeah, right. Like it's an initially like really low ACV or like no ACV customer
Hmm.
with that sort of on ramps themselves into a very sticky product and expands naturally. And that's like great for NRR, right? And like again, like we're an expansion business, so but that and then a lot of the new features that we're adding, a lot of the new solutions that we're getting ready to launch, are super exciting, and we're slowly actually replacing a lot of our sales and marketing software on default. So it's really exciting. Like we talk about this all the time, like being our own case study. Like how much of our software can we replace? How much better can our go to market run on default? Right. So
Right.
a lot of what we're gonna launch.
Concluding.
Yeah, exactly. So
Love it, man. Well, thank you for your time.
yeah,
It was really cool to hear all of your insights. Being a practitioner of funnel-led marketing, and I wish you all the best on the growth for the next year.
thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.